Women must be the health pusher in their own lives. I want to empower you. Keep asking the questions. If you don't like the answer, your doctor doesn't give them to you, find another doctor. I want to empower you, ladies listening, people listening, to get in the driver's seat of your own health and know what you've gotten, who gave it to you.
How does the inflammation lower itself?
Your body's immune system will start to cool it off. It will start to break down the scar tissue.
Got it.
It's just a very long process. By the fourth stage, the inflammation is over. So your body starts reclaiming tissue.
Hi, peeps. This is the next episode of the Flexible Neurotic podcast. I'm Dr. Sarah Milken, the Flexible Neurotic. I got so many messages about our topic today that we arranged this second interview in between my dental cleaning and her surgeries. So this midlife hottie, double board certified orthopedic surgeon, sought after speaker on empowering women for longevity, health practices, and is a 5 times best-selling author. She's always on the Today Show and so many other news outlets because her information is critical for our midlife selves. Hi, Dr. Vonda Wright.
Hi, Dr. Sarah.
Oh my gosh. So I don't know if the beginning got caught on the recording. Dr. Vonda Wright she's training for a Spartan race. And I told her that was the opposite of my fun and that's her fun. And I'm like, interesting. I want to run in a 30-pound weight, sweating profusely, climbing shit. Sure.
Yeah, you know what? When you put that way, I see your point.
Well, how do you frame it?
You know what? Here's how I frame it. Women have always done hard things. For God's sake, you pushed 2 kids out. I pushed a kid out. We solve all the problems. We've always done hard things. So there got to be a time in life when, I used to run marathons and at 40, I was in the best shape of my life. And I'm like, holy cow, I'm not dead yet. On top of that, my neighbor is the CEO of the Spartan races, and he's all the time jabbing me. He's like, what, are you dead? Are you dead? I'm like, I'm not dead yet.
Oh my gosh.
Just to clarify, I only do the Spartans that are held in legendary stadiums. So I did it in Fenway. I'm doing it in Raymond James. Next year I'll do it.
So you're not in a jungle.
I'm not in the jungle. We get to go behind the scenes at these famous stadiums, and it's only 3.2 miles. So I don't want you guys to think that it's a marathon with 40 obstacles. It's still a lot of work. However, I'm going to tell you for sure that when I am done, I feel inconquerable. And you know what? Women actually show up to do it with me. 10 showed up in Boston, 10 are showing up in Tampa. Because we do hard things, ladies. We just do hard things.
I might just start with the cold plunge, like just trying that out once. Like that might be my baby step.
Terrifying to me because my belly doesn't like to be cold. I'm in a swim.
Okay, so today we're going to talk about frozen shoulder. Frozen fucking shoulder. I don't even know what to say about it because, well, actually I do know what to say because I had it.
Yeah. And you can't say the F word enough about it because
you can't.
You can't.
You can't.
It sucks. It's like some evil trick. But look, because you're an actual doctor, I pulled an article for you.
Oh, so good.
Yeah, but you know what? This article was written by my mentor, Dr. Joe Hannafin, who is the badass of the badassest orthopedic surgeons, was an orthopedic surgeon before there were orthopedic women. And so there's actually science behind frozen shoulder, but it is a misnomer, isn't it? That it's frozen.
Yeah.
Because really what's going on is hot.
Oh, it's like a fucking javelin goes into an oven. Like there's no words for it actually.
And so frozen is wrong, other than it just doesn't move. So
yeah. Oh my God.
Not been lucky enough to have it. Women come into me, and I'm not kidding you. They can't raise their arm and they can't hook their bra.
Trust me, I lived it. So the proper fancy medical term is adhesive capsulitis.
That's right. That's right.
So that's like sticky. Yeah. It's like fucked up sticky shoulder that hurts.
And it's actually, if we biopsy the tissue, which Dr. Hannafin did, There's actually a progression of inflammation. If you can imagine that it goes from there are 4 stages, bear with me, okay? 4 stages, just because you know what, your women are going to want to know to be able to throw around this information when they're talking about it. 4 stages.
Especially to male doctors who are like, yeah, your shoulder hurts, or it's a rotator cuff problem. It's from pickleball.
Well, listen, highly inflamed people, most midlife women, get this, but guess who else gets it? Highly inflamed people because they're diabetic. Imagine being a
Mm.
woman with diabetes. That is 2 insults in one. Anybody with a highly inflamed state, whether it's autoimmune, whether it's diabetes, whether it's women who have lost their estrogen are highly inflamed. So with frozen shoulder, it starts off insidiously, like stage 1, you have pain in your shoulder at night. You can't roll over. And then you notice, oh, it hurts. And you do the normal thing, you stop moving it. Well, that's the worst thing we can do because during phase 1, which can be about 3 months, it's mainly just inflammation. But as it goes on, all the immune cells crawl into the inside skin of your shoulder. It's called the capsule and inflame it. And during inflammation, tissues in our bodies start to get stiffer and stiffer. So in stage 2, so stage 1 is just the pain phase. Stage 2 is the freezing stage, meaning it's just not inflammation. Your your tissues are getting stiffer. And if that goes on up to 15 months, you enter the frozen stage. It is frozen. The capsule has contracted. So that's why I tell you to do some of the stuff I'm going to tell you how to treat this, but you got to keep moving this thing because the actual tissue of your shoulder actually contracts. And then you can't move this. And then eventually, stage 4, which can come 2 years later, if you can imagine the misery of it, your body finally gets rid of the inflammation, finally gets rid of the fibrotic tissue. So stage 1, 2, 3, 4, thaw over 2 years. So when I tell people to get on this and get on it early, it's not because I don't, I'm just like, oh, treat your injuries early. No, it's because the inside skin, the capsule of your shoulder will physically contract. And then literally, I had 4 women last week come in my office. They're like, I can't
Oh
even
my
do my
God. I
hair.
no, I know that feeling because I lived it, and it is something that's indescribable. But we're going to go through all the specifics of this. But when you said if you just let it run for 2 years and said, okay, I'm just going to sit here and take it, would it thaw out on its own eventually, or do you have to intervene?
Eventually it will thaw out, but 2 years, really?
Right.
And
No, the reason I'm asking is because I had people messaging me last night about it because I asked followers to ask questions.
that.
And one woman said, I'm kind of just grinning and bearing it and sticking it out. And I thought to myself,
Mm-hmm.
well, I wonder if that works because I mean, I couldn't have done that. I don't have that kind of internal strength to just grin and bear it for 2 years.
Well, yes. Eventually, most of these resolve. That's the bullshit answer many women get when they go to doctors with a frozen shoulder. They're like, you know what, just hang with it. It'll get better. Well, those men don't have ovaries. Those men don't have frozen shoulder. They don't know what it's like to not be able to use their arm for any functional way for 2 years. So eventually if you give it 2 years, it usually resolves. But
But how is that possible if you don't change any other things? Like if we're going to get to the estrogen piece, but if you're not doing the things, how do you eventually, how does the inflammation lower itself?
your body's immune system will start to cool it off. It will start to break down the scar tissue.
Got
So
it.
it's just a very long process
I
because by the 4th stage, the inflammation is over. So your body starts
got it.
reclaiming tissue.
Yeah, I heard you say on your Instagram that if you have women who are scheduled on your books to come and see you,
Yeah.
and you know that they're between the ages of, let's say, 35 and 55, and they haven't been into a car accident or fallen at the supermarket, you know it's frozen shoulder.
Yeah, if I see on my that age group, it says shoulder, and my athletic trainer usually goes in before me, and I read the first line, no traumatic injury. I know it's frozen shoulder. So I don't let them talk about their shoulder too long before I get into their perimenopause. And that's why, and I've said this before, you may have heard it. That's why I am the nicest possible orthopod I can be, but women weep in my office because they want to be heard. They've been told they're insane. There's nothing wrong with you. What do you
It's in
mean you
your
have no?
head. You'll be fine in a week.
It's so not. And it's not because you're getting old. It's because your estrogen has declined and you're inflamed.
Oh my God. I mean, there's actually no words for it. Okay, so we did the three to four stages. Now
Mhm.
let's talk about the causes. So one cause is you fucking fell. One cause is there's trauma, you're in a car accident. But the main culprit is estrogen declining.
Yes. Right. Precipitously, right? Every month you have a period, your estrogen goes up and down like this. But then when your ovaries retire at 40, we have 1% of our eggs left. So that's not much egg left to make estrogen. And after that, your eggs are done. And it goes like this. Men just kind of coast along with their hormone levels, estrogen and testosterone. Women go zoop. And then so that's why all of a sudden these things arise. It's pretty quick how these things can just come up. So when women come into my office, and I know that's what's going on, we just talk about perimenopause because then they're heard. Then they recognize they're not making it up. No, they didn't have a fall. They didn't bump their shoulder in the middle of the night on the closet door when they got up. This can just happen for no apparent reason. And once they know that I understand, then they're going to listen to what I say about what to do and know
Right.
that I'm not shoving procedures at them or shoving therapy at them. I'm explaining to them the mechanism and why we got to get on this early.
Is there ever a case where somebody is on HRT or estrogen, but it's just not enough?
Yeah, it can be because you can be highly inflamed from other reasons. Maybe you have a legitimate autoimmune disease. Maybe you have thyroid problems. Maybe you are diabetic, or even though you're on HRT, you're so lipid dysregulated, sugar dysregulated, which happens, our insulin insensitivity rises during this time, that you're just too sweet inside. That's why
Right.
I tell people we must live an anti-inflammatory diet. And the number one thing to do that is get rid of sugar, which we all love
Which
because
is
that's
so hard.
so hard. I get it. I ate half a brownie last night in full disclosure because it
I
was
would
just
eat two
good.
of the brownies, but yeah.
So hard. My husband, he's like, I say to him, don't friggin' cook those things. And he's like, just don't eat them. I'm like, that is not
No, that doesn't cut it for
that's not
women.
kind.
No, if I know it's there, I'm going for it.
Oh, and they were so good and gooey. So
Oh,
darn him for doing that. But it's the sugar that inflames us more. So your question was, can you be on our HRT and still have it? Yes. But here's what we know. There aren't that many studies about it. I showed you a really old one. This is from 2011. But Dr. Jocelyn Wittstein from Duke, who's a friend of mine, an orthopedic surgeon, partnered with Dr. Ford, I forget her first name, also from Duke, who's an OB-GYN, and they looked at insurance databases for variables concerning frozen shoulder and HRT, and they found, lo and behold, women on HRT have less frozen shoulder. They didn't say they had none, but they had statistically significantly less. So we can draw a correlation. Oh, maybe they're
do
less
you
than.
think now with more women kind of dealing with or first hearing about and then managing insulin resistance, since it's become like such a topic with metformin, the natural version of it, berberine, and or the semaglutides, Ozempic, Wegovy, Manjaro, all that stuff, Like, do you think that frozen shoulder could start to dissipate in some cases if women are taking those drugs?
You know what, Sarah? That would be a great study for someone to
Okay, I'll
mine.
get right on that, Dr.
Could you do
Vonda
that?
Wright.
Yeah, to someone to mine the big Ozempic databases and see if there's decrease. Actually, I have this brilliant uh, medical student. He's a data scientist. I may say he mines databases for me all the time. Maybe I'll ask him, and next time I talk to you, because I haven't seen a study. I guess the short answer is I haven't seen that study, but it would be fascinating.
Yeah, because I feel like if so many women now are using metformin for blood sugar, Ozempic, and all of these things, it would seem that if they were taking HRT, but it wasn't enough, but they also had the sort of blood sugar dramas to go with it, that perhaps it would dissipate a little bit. Just a random thought. I have a PhD, not an MD. So there you go. Whatever.
But see,
Um,
you PhDs love to analyze data, weird stats. I can't stand it. That's why I had this kid doing it for me.
Yeah, but I'm not cutting open shoulders, my friend. That is not going to happen. So
Uh-huh.
let's talk about diagnosing, okay?
Okay.
Because from my own personal experience, I actually re-listened to my episode where I talked about my frozen shoulder and I literally had PTSD. I was like, "Oh my God, this was just as bad as I remembered it was." I woke up one day and I said to my husband, like, I can't move my shoulder. And he, men don't get it. Like, he's like, yeah, huh, whatever. And I'm like, no, 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 I can't move it. And he's like, okay, put ice on it, heat it, take Motrin. I'm like, okay, but like, I've already done that. Like, what are you talking about?
No.
Um, and it took me pressing, like a lot of midlife women have to do on a lot of topics to get to the answer of frozen fucking shoulder.
Mhm.
And why is that? And what can we do better?
Well, I think number one, whether we're talking about frozen shoulder or a bloody nose or whatever, women, no one's going to ride in and help you. I would love to tell you that every medical doctor is going to sit down and take the time. Listen, insurance only pays for 15 minutes and they're doing the best they can. Women must be the the pusher, the health pusher in their own lives. I want to empower you. Keep asking the questions. If you don't like the answer, your doctor doesn't give them to you, find another doctor. I want to empower you, ladies listening, people listening, to get in the driver's seat of your own health and know what you've gotten, who gave it to you, blah, blah, blah. Number two, I think we have to um, learn, like from your podcast, from the menopause that are talking about these things all the time. Just be a student of your health, because otherwise you're the victim of whatever anybody tells you. If you don't self-educate, you're a victim. But what's your question? I got off on a rant. Is your question about
No,
treatment?
just diagnosing it because
Oh,
there's
how do
not
we
a
know?
test. Yeah, because there's not a
Right.
test.
Okay, there's no test. So if your shoulder will not move and you had no trauma, just assume you have frozen shoulder. If you're in the age range, just assume you make an appointment with an orthopedic surgeon or an orthopedic sports doctor, because there are medical doctors with a sports fellowship. They are not surgeons, but they do procedures. You walk right in and here's what I want you to say. Hi, I'm a midlife woman. I had no trauma. My shoulder won't move. I think it's adhesive capsulitis. Can I please get a steroid injection? Because I'm in phase 1. It's in the highly inflamed stage, and I don't want it to progress. I mean, be aggressive like that. Just don't sit there and say, oh, my shoulder hurts.
Okay, there's a lot of people who are listening right now because I also got a lot of messages about it who are afraid of cortisone injections.
I know, and I hate them. Listen, if it were your knee, I'd try everything else. If it were anything, I always try other things. I get it. You either need cortisone or I use a lot of platelet-rich plasma, which has anti-inflammatory properties, which I've
Which is
drawn
when you take your own blood, spin
your
it,
own blood.
inject it.
That's right. Because we have got to stop the
But
inflammatory.
how many times do you have to do PRP for it to work? That isn't that different than like a cortisone injection where
It
like
is.
it's slam bam, thank you, ma'am.
Well, and it works differently, right? And I will tell you for sure, PRP has a lot of great uses that have amazing level 1 data, which is the best data for arthritis, for tendon problems, for rotator cuff tears. There is no data for frozen shoulder, but my women are so desperate to feel better. I know it has amazing anti-inflammatory properties, so I explain that to them. And I usually use it after steroids or PT have not progressed them, before I'm saying, the only other thing I have for you, you're so frozen, is to take you to the operating room and manipulate your
How
arm.
many times would someone have to do PRP from your anecdotal office?
I do 3 injections.
Okay. Over how long?
Over 1 a week for 3 weeks.
Got it. Okay.
All the while we're doing physical
I
therapy.
feel like it's cheaper just to get the damn cortisone injection.
Oh, it's much cheaper. Cortisone is $60. PRP is $900, and that's cheap. That's
Yeah.
cheap. Yeah. So, and I get you. I don't use steroids in my practice. This is the one exception. Shoulders are the one exception. So, because we're just trying desperately to get rid of the inflammation, you can also get rid of sugar. You can take ibuprofen. I can prescribe something like Celebrex or meloxicam, which are the,
Yeah, I use the meloxicam one also. But you
yeah.
also it at some point, like what are you gonna the frozen shoulder thing lasts for so long. I was like, I'm gonna burn out the inside of my body taking all these anti-inflammatory drugs. I mean, you can't take Motrin every day for 3 years.
Well, that's dramatic, my love, but you're right. You don't want to be taking it forever, but if we can get you through the
I
worst
know, but the women
inflammatory
who are
thing,
kind of just grinning and bearing it and they're taking it for 6 months, 3 times a day. I don't know. I'm not a
that's a
doctor,
lot.
but to me, it just seems like a
Sarah, you're
lot.
right. That's a lot. We got to be worried about your kidneys.
Yeah, it just to me it seems like a lot. I mean, look, I'm not anti-drugs. Like I feel like there's certain things that I need to make my quality of life better. So when I had frozen shoulder, I immediately went to the orthopedic surgeon. I was like, "Give me the cortisone injection. I am not tolerating this because I've already had this for 3 or 4 days." He gave
Mhm.
it to me. I will tell you, I did not get relief.
Uh-oh.
Then I went back a week later. I went to a different doctor in the same practice, and I love both of them equally. But
Mhm.
that doctor had more time because I paid extra because it was a weekend. And my husband was like, "You're paying that?" And I was like, "If you were in this much pain, you would pay any amount. Like, I don't even want to hear about it."
Mhm.
And he used a really quick ultrasound.
Mhm.
Somehow, I have no idea how, found the exact spot, which I still don't understand, gave me another cortisone injection. I'm telling you, I re-listened to that episode, like I said, within
Mhm.
5 hours, I had
Mhm.
90% relief.
Yeah.
5 hours.
Mhm.
But he nailed the spot. So tell me how two doctors in the same office have different experiences with getting rid of my pain.
Yeah, and I don't know what it did. There are a lot of variables. I use two kinds of numbing medicine, lidocaine and marcaine, short acting, long acting, and 80 milligrams of steroids, which is twice the normal dose. And if you put that right below this bone called the acromion, the roof, to bathe the entire capsule, that's the correct place to do it. And I put it in right back here, which I don't need an ultrasound to do because I've been doing this 30 years. However, it matters what you use, it matters where you put it. And um, I don't have an answer other than
Yeah, it
that.
was just such an interesting thing. I was like, wait, how did that work? But the one last week did it.
Yeah.
But then when people ask me how like I cured myself, I had that. So it brought the inflammation down. Then there was someone else in the office who does this weird red light therapy. And I did that for 4 days. And then I think I did physical therapy twice a week. I'm making this up for 2 months.
Yes. Red
And
light.
I really didn't want to do it because I didn't have the extraordinary pain anymore. But they really hammered me hard to do it. And I'm happy I did it because it really gave me my mobility back, which was really impeded.
Because remember, part of inflammation is pain, but part of this syndrome is contracture of the capsule. So you avoided that, thankfully.
Oh my God. But what's interesting about it, going back to the estrogen piece, the orthopedic surgeon didn't really get into any of that with me. He's male, whatever.
He didn't know.
Right.
Imagine if only 25% of all OB-GYNs have ever been educated about this. Imagine that Dr. Jocelyn Wittstein and Dr. Vonda Wright are the two orthopedic surgeons in the whole country that have taken the time. I mean, I'm pretty humble and honest about my huge social media gathering. I think I'm as funny as the next person, but the real reason that that's blown up is because there's such a a drought of musculoskeletal doctors talking about the way estrogen affects our bodies. And so that's why I had to come up with the nomenclature, the musculoskeletal syndrome of menopause, of which inflammation is one of the pillars and frozen shoulder is one of the most common manifestations.
And the other term you use for that midlife clunk of a body is the arthralgia.
Arthralgia is total body pain. It can be joint pain, but it's just your whole body is so painful. This is one of my primary symptoms when I became perimenopause. Here I am, this athlete who thinks it's fun to go do Spartan races. Plus, I ballroom dance, so I'm not just sweating it out. I do elegant things too. But and I can't get out of bed due to
But is
arthritis.
it because, like, I feel like sometimes with the perimenopause stuff, it's like sometimes I just feel like ass. Like my body's just like tired and I feel like a slug in quicksand. But that's different than, let's say, my 80-year-old dad who, like, his hand, he's a dentist, his hands ache and like he can, it's hard for him to like grip something really tightly anymore.
And that's because of his arthritis,
Yeah.
right? From wearing out our joints. I'm doing that with this joint right here, wearing them out for multiple repetitions, thousands of mouths, thousands of patients, right? That is different than you actually don't have physical arthritis or injury, although you might. Another pillar is rapid arthritis, but in general, what you're describing, there's actually a study about this. Dr. Corinne Men just posted twice about this study. It's the not feeling like myself.
Yes, I saw that. I saw that.
It's an actual thing. I mean, you
It's
can't
like the midlife clusterfuck is what it is.
oh my God, that's great.
It's like it's all the ugs and the pains, and I feel like I'm drowning in quicksand and I can't get my ass out of bed. And Dr. Vonda Wright is telling me to lift heavy shit, and it's all too hard.
And you know what? I'm really proud of you because I do see what you're doing when you're in the gym. That plank thing you were doing the other day with the, I don't know, the inner thigh sweat thing, girl,
Yes.
you're working hard. Oh
I
my
know,
God.
but honestly, I tell people this all the time. I'm not one of those people who enjoys exercise. I said this in our last episode. Like, people are like chasing endorphins. I feel like I'm missing the endorphins.
You know what? Here's
I'm
the
doing it
deal.
because I have to do it. I hate it.
But you know what? We are genetically predisposed to conserve. Our bodies don't know why we're exercising. You know what? It's easier for us to sit around, but that will kill us. So you don't have to like it from a preservation standpoint. Probably sitting around is safer for us. But here's the deal for any, for myself, for you, I say this tongue in cheek because I can't control everybody, but you are not allowed to be frail in 20 years because I didn't tell you that hating the gym was good for you because you look little on Instagram. You're
Yeah,
little.
I'm 5'2".
No, you're little, you're fair, you're lean. If you don't stay in front of it, like me, if I don't stay in front of it, I'm going to be that frail little old lady who has to I am going to live with my kid because I told her I'm going to bug her until I die, but you know, I would have to because I couldn't take care of myself.
I
And just
know.
my watch.
Well, I'll tell you, in 2020, during the pandemic, we went to Hawaii.
Mhm.
We went on this insane bike ride. We shouldn't even have been on it with this tour guide, whatever, way out of my league.
Mhm.
Totally. We go down these crazy mountains, whatever. We get to the bottom. It's like residential area. And of course, there's like work trucks and construction and it's wet. And there was the tour guide, then my son, then me. They started pumping the brakes. So I pumped the brakes, but I didn't understand which brake was the right brake. So I
Oh,
flipped over the bike.
oh,
You couldn't go to the emergency rooms because everything was closed because of COVID. So I had to go to some like random sketchy urgent care that was like barely functioning. I had a broken wrist,
oh
a
my God.
broken rib, and like this sort of weird fracture thing on my shoulder blade. Like literally, I thought I was going to die. I will tell you, it took me almost 2 years to get my wrist back to where it was.
Sarah, you have to get a DEXA scan if you
I
haven't got
have
it.
one.
Okay.
Are you
Look
kidding,
at me.
honey? I have
Look at me
two.
giving you advice. You have
I
got to get a DEXA scan.
I have two of them. The
Okay.
problem is when I go, he looks at it and he goes, "You're fine." And I'm like, "Okay, but that's not helpful. I need someone to read it and interpret it. Telling me
Oh,
I'm fine doesn't help me."
that's our next podcast. You bring your
Okay.
results and I'll interpret them for all of your listeners.
Uh,
Everybody can bring their DEXA scans and
and
we'll
but
just
he
go
did
over them.
say the one random thing he did say was it looks better than last time.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good.
But I thought we couldn't grow bone. So explain that to me.
So,
We can grow muscle, but not bone. So how is it better?
well, here's the deal about estrogen and bone is that you're still laying down bone during menopause. It's just that there's a mismatch that I use these little hands if you're watching this as the osteoclast, which is the cell that resorbs bone, and the osteoblast that comes up behind it and fills the gap. Estrogen dampens the activity of the osteoclast and keeps it in check. When estrogen's gone, the osteoclast just goes. It does its thing without hindrance. So the little osteoblast can't keep up. So you're still laying down bone. So if you do hormone replacement, that control is back in place. If you do or don't do that, lifting heavy will build muscle that pulls on the bone, that sends stimulus to the bone to lay down quicker. So you can, I don't want to say you can build a ton of bone, but you can even out the dysfunction. Now
Okay,
the way you
maybe that's what I did, and maybe that's what he was referring to. But what was interesting is my Pilates teacher is really teeny tiny, smaller than me. And she doesn't lift a lot of weights, but obviously she does a lot of Pilates. She said that her doctor told her that her bone density wasn't great. So then it made me think, is Pilates not enough?
no, it's not. I'm just going to say it on national, it's not. You have to build muscle, and to build muscle, you must give your body enough stimulation. Do I think Pilates is bad? No, do Pilates, but it's not going to build enough muscle for you to preserve your bones, number one. Number two, here's what we have to understand. Title IX is now 50 years old. So we have an entire 50 years of women who have grown up playing sports. So if we were active enough during the restrict your food era of this country, and we starved ourselves and did a lot of aerobic exercise and missed 3, 6, 9 months of periods a year, like I did.
I didn't do any of that.
You're so funny. Well, sometimes people did and then missed a lot of periods. There's a lot of young women who come to me with bone density problems because
Yeah.
not because they lost their estrogen, it's that they never laid down enough bone in the first
I
place.
know. Because didn't you say somewhere, is it 20 or 30, age 20 or 30 where you've
30.
laid down most of it?
30. So let's get it done. Like my older daughter's 29. I'm like, you better be laying down some
Tick
bone.
tock, tick
She's an
tock.
athlete. Yeah, eggs and bones. That's what I'm
Oh my
preaching.
God. So you say that 71% of women in this age group will have joint pain without any structural abnormalities. Like you could go to the doctor all day long, get MRIs, x-rays, and they're going to be like, Sarah, Vonda, there's nothing structurally wrong with you.
41% of the time you will have. So a big percentage. Now, some
Okay.
of you will have arthritis. Some of you will have a legitimate rotator cuff tear with freezing. But 41% of the time, they're going to be like, yeah, normal. Nothing's wrong with you. Whoa. And you're like, something is wrong with me.
Yeah.
Mhm.
The other thing that I found interesting about my situation is obviously the doctor didn't say, "Oh, you have frozen shoulder." I said it. And
Mhm.
then, because I had already been in the Google rabbit hole, but I had called my gynecologist and I had a month-long bleed.
Oh my,
I know this is I take birth control pills. I know that's controversial, but I've taken them since I was 14 and I haven't had the balls to switch over to HRT because no one has given me a foolproof plan that I'm not going to become a crazy person in switching from birth control pills to HRT, lose all my hair and gain 500 pounds.
well, you've just got a lot of estrogen around. It's like you just have more than you need. It's okay.
Right. And so but what was weird about it is even taking the birth control pills, I bled through for a month because it was a really stressful time. We were moving, my husband had COVID, like it was a whole thing, right? And the gynecologist said to me, Sarah, you've been bleeding tremendously for a month right before the frozen shoulder. Like
Hmm.
that is an estrogen, I guess, dump, huge hormone change.
Mhm.
Because other than that, I hadn't changed anything.
Yeah, it's a little bit of chaos during
Yeah.
perimenopause. It's a little unpredictable, a little
And I
bit.
had switched birth. So wait, actually, I switched birth control pills. I had a month-long bleed.
Yeah,
Obviously, I was probably semi-anemic at that point because I feel like I had hemorrhaged half my body blood out. And
exactly.
then I had
How
frozen
annoying is that?
and then I had frozen shoulder. So it made complete sense.
Mhm. Your estrogen dropped low enough and you just got inflamed. Yeah.
Yeah.
The stress can make you more inflamed. I mean, there are lots of reasons that we become inflamed. Chronic stress, men can die of chronic inflammation, and many do, heart disease, right?
Yeah.
So there's many reasons to become inflamed.
So going back to the solutions for frozen shoulder,
Yes.
estrogen, which is hormone replacement essentially, or you could do a version of it of birth control pills, which I'm not recommending. It just happens to be what my thing has been. A steroid injection, PRP platelet injections, and eating anti-inflammatory. Did I miss something?
Physical therapy,
Okay.
because many women cannot move it themselves because it hurts too much. People can't
Yes.
hurt themselves. I mean, I get that because a therapist is going to move it for you. They're going to do deep tissue work to help get your scapula to unadhese to your back. So, but most people can't hurt themselves like that. So you need a therapist to help put you through what you need. Because if all of those fail, and you're getting way out in time and your arm is still stuck like this, then at some point we're going to have a discussion about manipulation under anesthesia or perhaps doing a capsulotomy, which I got to tell you does not happen very often in my hands. It
Okay.
doesn't. We don't get there. But those are options.
What
Uh,
about the people who can't take HRT or won't take HRT?
and you do all the other things. It doesn't excuse you from doing all the other things.
Right. But you talked about one of your friends. I'm making this up. Is her name Minnie? No. There was a friend on Instagram that you talked about who did not take HRT but became a bodybuilder.
Oh, her name is Susan Geedy.
Okay, Geety and Minnie. I don't know how my brain mixed those two things together, but
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
But I'm not becoming a bodybuilder, but I do, and that's an extreme, obviously.
No, she was intentional. All those women who choose to become bodybuilders, that is a different kind of lifting completely than what I'm suggesting.
Okay.
I mean, you will not become intense and big like that without really weighing all your food, paying attention to macros like a bodybuilder. That is an art to become a bodybuilder. That literally, it's an art. So
So when
she
you have women come into your office who don't want to take HRT, what are their main reasons for it?
they're afraid of the Women's Health Initiative.
Right, the breast cancer thing still,
Breast
but anything else?
Um, I want to be natural,
Okay.
which I say, okay, well, what does natural mean? You make estrogen. How much more natural is that? You make it. So it's not like we made up some chemical like metformin, which is a made up chemical. We're taking the chemical structure of estrogen and making it. It's your body. So it is natural. But you know what? They're afraid. They want to be natural. My mother never did it.
A friend of mine told me last night that she's past menopause, but she doesn't take it because she's afraid to gain weight.
You don't gain weight from
That's
taking
no,
estrogen.
that's what I said, but in her mind, that's gonna create like a muffin top in some shape, way, or form. So I just feel like there's so many myths out there.
Yep, that is misinformation. In fact, there's this concept. I saw it one time. Did I say this to you already at some point? I don't know how I got them to do this, but at one point I got Mercedes-Benz to send me to Fashion Week. And it's the first time I saw skinny fat. There were
Interesting.
so many people there who were this big, you could not detect a muscle on them. So if you don't want to lift weights or take estrogen to compose your body because you don't want to gain weight, there is this concept of skinny fat. You can age your whole life, not gain 1 pound of fat or 1 pound, but because you'll lose so much lean muscle mass, you won't see it unless you get a body composition. I'm making these numbers up, but you could go from a healthy 25% body fat to 35 or 40% body fat and look the same. It's just that you're skinny fat
It's
because
so
you lost your muscle
crazy.
mass.
It's so crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, so if estrogen leaves the body, you have low bone density, you're female, you've been a prior smoker, and your mom is shrinking or you're shrinking, you've basically kind of given yourself the cheat notes for all sorts of bone drama.
Yeah, you've laid out a plan for being osteoporotic, breaking your hip, and being frail.
Okay, so when people say, but insurance won't pay for the DEXA scan because I'm not 60 or over, what's your response?
Buy it yourself. So here's the deal, right? My cup of coffee at Starbucks, and I don't really get fancy coffee, but it costs $7.18. I never go anymore. I bought the little things at home and I make uh save up your $7.18 for a month, and then you can Google DEXA scan in my town. Gyms have clinical grade DEXA scans. There are now there are older machines that don't involve any radiation whatsoever. Um, get an awareness of what your bone density is. Or how about this one? Don't get a DEXA scan. Just assume because you're a woman and you're midlife, you're losing bone density because you are. And then act like you have osteoporosis and do all the right things. Eat enough protein, lift weights, uh, make sure you're not, smoking anymore, for God's sake, and whittling your bones away. If you can get off chronic steroid use, lots of women have medical problems. They need steroids, which also breaks down bone. See what you can do about that. So I've got an answer for every excuse.
I
I've been doing
know,
this
believe me,
a long
because I
time.
could think of every excuse known to man. Okay, what about those? I can't even think because I don't have any brain functioning left in me, but those like supplements, the osteo whatever, and that's they're supposed to help you with your bones, the calcium this. There's a lot of anti of that. Why is that?
So you know what? There are a lot of micronutrients. I had pulled some papers on it a little while ago. There's probably 20 micronutrients that are helpful for mineralizing bone. We would frankly rather you eat whole foods full of dark green leafy vegetables to get your micronutrients. But at a minimum, we love for if you're vitamin D low, which most of us are, to supplement up. I take 5,000 international units right now because when I first tested my vitamin D, I almost didn't have any. So I took
And
10,000.
you live in Florida.
Well, but I use sunscreen on my face. Ellen Gendler gave
I
me
know, but
this.
that's what I'm saying. It's amazing. Like my husband plays golf outside all day and his vitamin D is low. My point is we all think that because we live in LA or Florida that we're getting enough vitamin D.
Just have it checked and supplement. It's that important. Vitamin D is then usually supplemented with potassium. That's what K is.
Yeah, I was going to
D,
ask you about the K. I buy the one that comes with the K because
yeah,
they say if you don't have the K, you can't absorb the D.
yeah. So buy them together. There's lots of kinds. And then magnesium, 500 milligrams, L-threonate, or magnesium glycinate.
I take both.
Do you? Not magnesium citrate. Avoid that. That's how we give people diarrhea for their
I know.
colonoscopy.
I just take glycinate and threonate because I feel
Yeah,
like I've covered my bases.
absolutely. And take it at night so you sleep
I
better.
do.
And then,
They're on my nightstand. Otherwise, if you don't have it stacked that shit, you are not going to go find the magnesium at 10:30 at night.
oh, listen, Sarah, I do. I'm so paranoid about not being able to sleep. I get up and take it if I forgot.
No, no, that's why I leave it on my nightstand. My husband's like, "Why does your nightstand look disgusting?" I'm like, "Because I have to see it to do it."
Yeah, I'm a little bit like that too. And then get your calcium from your food. Just do it. Get it from your food. I just want you to eat well. Quit eating shit that's prehabbed in boxes.
What about this other thing you talk about, Ficitin? What is that?
Oh,
Because I bought it and I take it, but I have no idea why. It's just because you told me to.
yeah. Oh, I love that you did that. So this is a completely different subject, but I'll tell you. So there are 12 hallmarks of aging. Six are the ones we focus on a lot, inflammation being one of them. Another hallmark of aging is this thing called senescence or zombie cells. So in your body, every cell has four destinations. It can be a stem cell, which remains capable of becoming anything. Everybody's heard of stem cells. Stem cells that are properly stimulated become mature cells, like a muscle cell. Let's just say it's stimulated to become a muscle cell. That muscle cell's working, it's doing muscle cell type things. And then when it's done, what it's supposed to do is turn on the genes that make it die. Death is a very active process in our cells. It's called apoptosis. So it's supposed to die, right? It's a stem cell, it's a working cell, or it dies. There's a fourth kind of cell called a senescent cell, a zombie cell. Zombie cells are neither living nor dying. They're just metabolically crippled cells that circulate around your body as we age, spewing off chemicals that can accumulate and cause cancer and cause you to age. Lots of things cause us to accumulate senescent cells, stress, bad lifestyle, simple aging. So in addition to lifestyle, Ficitin, which if you wanted to eat enough strawberries, you could get it from strawberries, but who can eat that many strawberries? And
Wait, you're
decreases
freezing. Wait, you're
senescent
freezing for
cell
a second.
load.
Okay, you froze for a second. Spell Ficitin for everyone.
Fisetin, Ficitin. And I get mine. Do you want to know where I get mine? I'm not trying to
Yeah.
sell vitamins.
Yeah.
I get mine from a company called Do Not Age, DONOTAGE.com. I'm hesitating because I have to look on my Instagram page. I
Okay,
think I have.
we'll find it.
Yeah. And so Ficitin to get rid of senescent cells, which are zombies, neither living nor dead, too much accumulation is a
So is
hallmark.
that different than the autophagy thing?
Autophagy is I think you're thinking of programmed cell death, which
Yeah.
is, well, that's what cells are supposed to do. They're supposed to program to
Right.
die.
So I'm just saying when you take this supplement, it's killing off the dead cells.
It's killing off the cells that are should be dying, but they're
Got
not.
it. Got it. Got it. And how much of it do you take?
I take 500 milligrams.
Okay. And what about omega 3s? Does that have anything to do with this project?
Omega 3s are great anti-inflammatories. So, omega 3, make sure you get a pure supplement. You don't want to be eating fish trash. I would get a capsule and just swallow it down with food because unfortunately it can make your
Yeah.
mouth taste like
Is
rotten fish.
there a brand that you believe in? And I've also seen, and I'm spacing on the woman's name, she's pretty well renowned. And she says that in order to be able to create the lean muscle mass you want and using omega-3s that you would want a minimum of 2 grams a day. Have you seen that?
2 grams is the common dose, actually.
Okay.
So you have to take it multiple times a day to get that dose. I got to be honest with you, I don't take it that much because I can't, it really makes me, I need to take it, but it's the
Ugh,
uncomfortableness of smelling like fish all day that I haven't found a workaround. But yes,
interesting.
2 grams. Yeah, 2 grams. Good for you.
Okay. So look, the bottom line is we're not making this shit up.
Oh, it's real. Anybody
Yeah,
who's
because people
making it up,
are
walk away.
convincing themselves that they're making it up. Husband saying it's in your head. Doctors, yeah, you'll feel better in a week. And we're here to say, you guys, bullshit.
Exactly. Because listen, what what's the gain from making up how miserable you feel? What's the point of that, right? It's like, I mean, we could get into all the things,
Exactly.
but with men, why do people fail to believe women? What are we, a bunch of liars? Why do you even question what we say? I don't get it. I don't get it.
I
I want
don't
to make it.
know. I just think that when you're a guy, you don't understand all the nuances and intricacies that hormones play on a daily basis. Like I wake up one day and I'm like, okay, I'm in a good mood. The next day, I could really be like
Yeah.
scary. But my husband understands that.
Well, here's how I'm going to throw it back on the men. I have the best husband. It seems like you have the best husband.
I do too.
Just because you don't understand it, I'm speaking directly to the men,
Yes.
just because you don't understand it does not mean that it's not real. I don't understand for 1.5 seconds how you can be so interested in baseball statistics that you can talk about the World Series in 1947, and I'm a sports doctor. I don't
Right.
understand that, but that's real to you, so you go, boy.
I know, but there's
So,
something weird about men in pain. Let me tell you why. So my husband plays golf. He works out a lot, blah, blah, blah. He woke up one day and he was like, I can't move. And he was in so much pain. I've never seen him like this. And I'm not going to say I was happy he was in pain because that obviously not. But I said to him within a few hours, I'm not happy you're in pain, but I'm happy that you're understanding the level of pain that takes your breath away because this is the level of pain I was in with frozen shoulder or when I flipped off the bike and was in urgent care in Hawaii. And I never thought you truly understood what I was going through, but now you do.
well, and that's my whole point on this little tirade, and I'm glad you brought us to here, is that it doesn't matter if you experience it or understand it, you love this woman, be sympathetic, be
Yeah.
deeply empathetic, and
But
don't
they're
make.
sympathetic of like, oh, I'm sorry you're feeling that way. And they're sympathetic like, fuck, I've been there. And it's different,
Oh, yeah, it's different.
you
I
know?
expect the former. I don't want the latter, but if, they understand. But I think everybody should expect the former.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And then when he had that back pain, he sat on the sofa and in bed for 3 days. And I go, so are we going to move on to the orthopedic surgeon or the back doctor, or we're just going to fucking sit here and drink water and take Tylenol? I
And what happened?
made, yeah, I made him go and I made him get an MRI and do all the things that normal people should do when they're in pain. You shouldn't just accept things for what they are. There are
I'm laughing.
solutions.
I'm laughing, Sarah, because I make a joke that the only time men go to the doctor is when they can't play golf or can't have sex. It's not really true, but come
But it
on.
is true because he couldn't do either of those things. I mean, I could live without the sex for 10 minutes, believe me. I'm like, oh my God, thank God. But still, I'm like, it's a different kind of thing for men. Okay, so tell us one more positive Vonda mantra, then we're gonna close this up and you're gonna tell us where everyone can find you.
Oh my God, I say so many
I
things all.
know. What's the bottom line for us?
Uh, okay, I'm making this up today. But your crowd is probably so empowered. Just, I don't want you to accept any bullshit. You are midlife. You've done hard things your whole life. You get what you want when you want it. We're the 51%. We are the majority. We get what we want when we want it. So just go after it. That's what I want you to know, right? We
I
don't have
fucking love you. We have to take this on the road. Everyone has to get their shit together, ask for what they want. We're all tired. We're all cranky. We all have so many things to do. Everything is hard. I know everything is hard,
but we're
but
good
we
at it.
can do it.
We're gonna fix it. We're
And so
capable.
many good things come from it when we actually do it. It just feels, it's like me with the weights, the dumb fucking weights. I do them because I have to, and I'm doing it for the long haul for myself.
Yeah. I'm a lot older than you, Sarah. I love this time of life. I do. It gets better. It really does. So
But it
I only
only
think
gets
that
better when we
you act on it, right?
exactly.
Mhm.
Because a lot of times, I'll be honest, and I'm always honest, unfortunately, is there are days where I wake up and I'm like, oh, I feel tired. Oh, this is hard. Oh, like I just want
Very
to stay in
authentic.
bed all day.
It's very authentic of you. And then you get up and you do your thing.
Exactly. And it's okay. And it's all okay. Okay. If anyone wants to find you, which is everyone,
Aw.
because your Instagram is so thoughtful, helpful, expert like, quick. It's all the things. Where can we find you?
I only want you to look two places. One is Instagram, Dr. Vonda Wright, Dr. Vonda Wright. And then I have a website by the same name, Dr. Vonda Wright. And via the website, you can message me.
Okay,
There's a
Wright is Wright. I absolutely adore you. Can you please come to LA and put my body back together?
next time I'm out there, I'll call you. We'll do lunch and
Yeah, we'll have to do like a whole like DEXA scan review of like what's actually going on in my body because just you're fine doesn't do anything. I want to thank you for being a friend to me, to the Flexible Neurotic podcast, and we'll talk soon.
all right. Have a great day, my friend.
Bye.
You.
I think there's some crazy statistic that 75% is not gene based. It's lifestyle based.
So can we talk about the anti-inflammatory eating?
Yeah, we're going to do that right now.
That's the biggest thing. And that's part of the reason why I started it for other reasons, but it's really changed everything in my life by eating this way. And